All right, guys, we're back on the Next Level Agent podcast, and today I am joined by Derek Jarr. Derek is the founder and CEO of Stay Frank, which we're going to spend some time talking about today, as well as kind of his journey in the real estate world. Derek, how's it going, man?
Great, great. It's good. It's good. Excited. Frantic Friday. I feel like always trying to get some more stuff in before the holiday weekend here.
That's it's funny. I keep forgetting that this is a holiday weekend. Like my kids just got out of school as of the time of this recording, anyways, and so I'm like focused on that, but I keep forgetting. Oh yeah, there's a holiday coming up at the end of the weekend. So always everyone's trying to rush it. In fact, I've got to sign closing documents later today on something that we're trying to close on, hopefully today or Tuesday, anyways, but before the end of the month. But anyways, I digress. Dude, so first of all, I want to talk about Stay Frank and kind of what that is, because you're always a guy that's kind of up on real estate like trends. I mean, you and I ran into each other at a basketball game in maybe December, and we were kind of talking about the market and kind of some of the stuff you see coming this year and next and some of the opportunities. And you've always been a guy who's been sort of out in front of trends and ways to create solutions for homeowners and investors. And so I'm always interested in kind of hearing from you. And so first of all, why don't we start with Stay Frank, kind of what that company is, and then I'll probably sort of go backwards from there.
Sounds good. It sounds about right. Backwards is very fitting for me at times. It's funny. I appreciate the kind words on that. I think there's some people that do it faster, and there's some people that do it better, and then there's people that do it different. And whatever the reason is, that's how God made me. I guess I'm the different guy. It's hard for me to fit in a box, and I always like to do things different. So I'm always looking like, well, everyone's over here. I wonder what's right over there. That sounds like that's the place for me. So yeah, so I think when I got in real estate in the early 2000s, and I got my license, and I was curious about investing, and I saw some of those ways to make money late night on TV at that time, and some stuff on the internet. I started knocking on doors, and I started mailing some people some letters of people that were in financial distress, a lot of pre-foreclosures. And everyone I started talking to, all homeowners, like, this one guy said, Derek, like, everyone wants to buy my house. All you guys want to buy my house, kick me out, close tomorrow, all that stuff. And I don't want to move. And this guy said, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll sell you my house, but you got to rent it back to me. At the time, I was in my early 20s and early in my real estate career, and had no idea like if that was a good idea or a bad idea. I was just trying to do a deal. And so I said, all right, sounds good. And that was kind of the launch of my sale leaseback career. And that's what Stay Frank does. We buy houses from homeowners who are trying to access the equity in their house. They're locked out of traditional ways of doing that for whatever the reason might be. Typically, it's credit, maybe a job loss, whatever it might be. Now it's probably interest rates while they're not able to access that equity. And moving just is not ideal for them. It's just painful sometimes in general. But really, these people they're rooted in their house. They have kids at school. They like their neighbors, whatever it might be. And so they're in a situation where leasing back that house could be a good option for them. So that's what we're working on right now.
So you guys are you're buying the home, but you're letting the people stay there through a lease back. Is it are your primary ways of doing that? Is that through like agent relationships? Are you going direct to consumer? Like how do you come across those deals? And I'm sure it's probably a lot of different ways, but what's the most common method for you guys to come across a deal, whether or not it actually gets done, but to at least have the at bat?
Yeah, well, I think as we're kind of in a weird market or a different
Yeah.
market. I like to say that things aren't good or bad; they're just different. And so that's like, what do we do about them? So I started marketing, like I said, to people that we identified had some sort of financial distress. And I think currently now with Stay Frank, that is true today. So We are working with agents for sure that are trying to help out their homeowners solve their need. A lot of times, I think, especially in today's market, you got people that are selling more out of need. They're not really buying because they think the market's going to go up a whole lot more, at least not right now. They're not buying because money's cheap, obviously. Or sorry, selling, excuse me. So I think you got people right now that are selling based out of need. And in my experience, when people have financial challenges or financial needs, they tend to kind of not always go to their sphere or people who they know. They tend to kind of look elsewhere for help. So I think there's an incredible opportunity right now to market to people who might prefer to talk to someone that's not their friend or not someone they know, just from a safe face type standpoint. So we're collecting different data sets and doing direct to consumer to go find them an option and talk to them about a solution that they might not know exists. So we got emails, we got text messages, we got calls. We're doing some online marketing for people that are searching for different solutions, debt settlement loans, reverse mortgages, cash out refinances, whatever it might be.
I love that. Number one, I think you're right on. Like, I think a lot of times I mean, I came up in the short sale, like I got licensed in the middle of those. I just renewed, right? So
Yeah.
16 years ago, you were obviously did a ton in the short sale days too. And the thing is like especially when there's like actual hardship. I know a lot of the people we helped really didn't have a hardship. It was like their hardship was their house was worth less than they owed. But there was a lot of people in a tough spot financially, especially the early part of the short sale run up. And a lot of times people are just like they just don't like there's a little bit of an embarrassment, right, and so
Yeah.
you've got to I love the way you're like kind of putting your sort of, I'll call it marketing mind, or your efforts into, hey, where do these people go? Because you're right, they don't typically call their friend or the person they would normally confide in, because there's probably like a little bit of shame for some people for whatever reason, because they feel like it's their fault
Absolutely.
or something like that. And so putting yourself, I think it's a really valuable lesson, no matter what your business model is to just kind of put yourself in the shoes of your potential customer. Like, what are they doing? And the fact that you realize that, I think speaks to not only your experience, but your insight as to who your customer really is. I think that most agents, and the majority of the listeners here are agents, sort of don't think like that. Like, we're taught this one way of kind of branding it, and it's typically, if I'm being honest, it's all about us as real estate agents, right? And I think if
Yeah.
anything, I want to say, hey, take the lesson of, it's not really about us at all. And I think what Derek said is super important, is to think about, where does this person think to go, your ideal customer, your ideal client. And that's really important. I wonder why this isn't taught more, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, I think it's in this day and age, if you don't have a coach and a therapist and a dog, what do they call a dog, emotional support dog, you're not cool anyway, which, by the way, I think it's awesome, right? Because we all kind of live in this world of what we think we're supposed to be or what we should be, or whatever it might be, and I think there's just so much more realness that's happening. We all deal with stuff all the time, and so when and as an entrepreneur myself, it's never really cash flow that's been an issue. It's that cash stick. That cash flow comes in and it goes out. It comes in and it goes out. So it's like getting that stuff to stick around. Sometimes it can be kind of tricky. So for me, I actually found myself as an entrepreneur one time where I was, well, a couple of times where I've been cash rich, or sorry, I've been house rich and cash poor. I guess I've been cash rich at times too, but house rich and cash poor. And for me, I wish this product would have been around from a standpoint of, moving was not really ideal. My wife wasn't like super stoked about it, but we had a ton of equity. We had a ton of cash in the walls of the house that was very important for us to access. And so just, being able to talk to people in a more consultative way, especially as real estate professionals today, it's like, I feel like we want to present like, well, this is what I can do, and here's why I'm great, and look at all these closings I've done. Where it's like, more like, hey, Kevin, man, what's going on, dude? Like, how you doing? Like, how's life? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And approach it in a very consultative way where maybe it's not a deal today and it's going to be a deal tomorrow. But most people aren't talking to, in my experience, most people aren't talking to people this way, in a more holistic, consultative way. They're just trying to tell them what they can do or what they've done or why they should go with them. And I think when we get to that point of getting knee to knee, if you will, and looking someone in the eye and just listening for a moment, then we can truly see how can we help this person out. And if we can help this person out, move to a better place. And that's kind of our approach and how we do sales with Stay Frank is more consultative approach, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable insight. Now more than ever, you look at, you get a lot of people, for some, there's a good portion of the country, like a really large portion of the country, has got like a really amazing interest rate, right? And some, but they might not have any equity. And the reality is like the interest rate in itself is an asset, like just the interest rate on a home. And I think when we start to take the approach, the reason I bring that up is because when you take the approach that you just referenced, um, we we can be more creative if we take the time to be actually consultative, and instead of just sort of jamming down the perspective, I'll call it client's throat of here's the way selling your home works, right? And instead of doing that, just going, hey, what are the options out there? And do you need the money? Like, I'm seeing more and more seller finance deals that are happening just in literally even on the MLS. It's a prime time for that right now. You mentioned how the market's weird. I think there's a lot of opportunity that to put deals together if we take that consultative approach and are a little more open, sort of the way you mentioned, whether it's something like, I love, the fact you guys are offering like a sale and a lease back. Maybe it's a seller financing deal, a subject to deal. Like there's a lot of different opportunities out there. I think if eyes are just open enough.
Yeah, yeah. Like this is the time, right, to get back to that different standpoint. I mean, I think this is a time where we learn, we grow, we expand our minds to do things differently. When things are easy and the money's flowing, we tend to get dumb. I feel like
Oh yeah.
and lazy. And so now it's like, all right, different game, different set of rules right now. Like, all right, we gotta strap in here and get ready to go and figure out what opportunities are available. And I think at least my experience in back to short sale days, I was a little edgy, probably, in some of the lunch and learns that we did and different things, trying to show agents how to work with investors at that time and do something that was not middle fairway. It was a little bit off and go, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Now, there's good actors and bad actors in everything in life. So obviously, it all comes down to your intentions. But I think right now, the creative financing, the subject to, they're incredible tools. By the way, they're not new. They've been around for a very, very long time.
Forever.
And yeah, it's time tested. But you got people, they're scared of the boogeyman. They're like, oh, the due on sale clause. Well, listen, there's always stuff to look out for, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, well, how can we make this work? Like, don't tell me why we can't. Like, well, why not? And why can't we make it work? So, yeah, I love to hear that you guys are working on that stuff, because I think that's what's going to take in markets like this to survive and thrive. So
Yeah, I'll
I love
tell you,
that.
that how can it work? Even that was even my approach on short sales. Like, especially when I was trying to train other agents how to do it, is forget about you're going to hear 100 reasons especially from like a bank employee, as to why this short sale can't get approved. You just need the one reason why it should be approved, right?
Yeah,
What's the one reason why this is a good thing for the bank? And so I think if we take that similar approach with our clients, the people we're helping to try to buy and sell real estate, and go, okay, what is the way we could forget about the 99 ways we can't do this? Like, what's the one way we could do it, or what are some of the possibilities? And I think we've got to take a possible mindset. And to your point, things have been pretty easy. I think we all looked a lot smarter than we are for the last few
yeah,
years, and now it's a little more challenging. And the reality is, but I think it creates a huge opportunity, both to build a business and to build a portfolio, but also to bring a lot of options and help some people out.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be fun times ahead for a while, and I think too, the sooner we realize that things have changed, the rules have changed a little bit, and we don't hold on to like, well, as soon as interest rates go back down to 4.5%, then we'll all be okay again. Like that thinking is just, that's disaster waiting to happen. I mean, because at the end of the day, none of us know anyway, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, well, let's just act and take action on what we know today and what we can see today. And then if something else happens, then we'll do something else. But yeah. So I'm curious, actually. So you mentioned you're seeing some seller financing and stuff and being talked about in retail real estate, I guess, if you will, right? You're
Yep.
seeing some of that stuff start to happen. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. In
That's
fact,
awesome.
I'm actually closing. That's the deal I referenced earlier. I got to sign for later on. It happens to be a seller finance deal that just it came in looking like a regular retail deal.
Yeah.
Um, and the we shopped it, and said, hey, and the numbers just weren't quite where the seller wanted it. And because we asked a few extra questions, went, oh, well, hold on a second. Like this could absolutely be a deal for all of us. And so we put together a seller finance deal that is going to give the seller what he wants and give myself and my business partner what we're looking for as buyers. And the reality is I mean, it's not like it was that hard of a deal. It's probably
Mhm.
probably more of a layup when it comes to seller finance deals, but it was just the fact that all it took was a couple of extra questions, right? We could have just asked the questions you would ask a normal retail seller, but the
Yeah.
reality, and once you go a step further or two, you went, well, hold on a second, there's another way here. I think you actually said something earlier about when you were first getting started. I was just trying to do a deal. And I think if
Mhm.
we can just take that approach to, I'm just trying to do a deal, so that way we're not trying to jam a deal a certain way. I'm not trying to take a listing at a certain commission percentage, but to go, hey, or I'm trying to help a buyer get something at a certain rate or a certain price point, but to go, no, I'm just trying to put together a deal where you have more possibilities in mind. The reality is you're going to see a lot more. And I think with people having the interest rates that they have locked in, when you see people with the amount of equity that they have locked in that's been built up over the last, especially 3 to 5 years, it creates more opportunities. You said late night, so I immediately, my mind went to Carlton Sheets. It's that Carlton Sheets sort of mindset that if we
Yeah.
take that now, whether as an investor or an agent or both, like there's going to be more things that we can do and bring to consumers as possibilities.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Good. Goes back. Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say what I want to talk about a little bit too is prior to Stay Franked. I mean, you've been in around the real estate world for how long now? Like when did you actually get started in real estate?
So I bought my first house August 2nd, 2002. And I actually always thought it was August 1st, and I hung on to that. And then I actually looked up the deed of that property, and it was August 2nd. So that's why I knew that. I think I got my license around March or April of 2002. So a while.
So you've seen a lot of different markets, man. And you is it fair to say you've spent most of your time on the investor side, like, or what percentage of your time do you think you wore like a, I'll call it a licensees or agent sort of hat versus, hey, I'm looking to create opportunities from an investor, whether for yourself or for other investors.
Yeah, I mean, very little bit I would say as a retail or a professional real estate agent, and not because it's better or worse. It's just I just was on a different side of it. But I've worked always in conjunction with real estate agents, whether it's having them help source deals for us. As a developer for 7 years, I got confused, and I thought building houses was a good idea. And man, kudos to those guys that do it well. I'll tell you what, like, early on, I guess it was probably 2013, early on, when I started building, it was like, man, this is great. This is fun. We were designing and we're finding land and I was learning and I was growing. I just love to learn and grow. And, but wasn't very probably efficient at what I was doing. But because we were early on, the margins were healthy, where it made up and probably covered up some of that inefficiency. Well, then some of the real operators started coming into the market, and I was like, man, not making as much money as I thought I was going to on these deals, and just kind of got to the point where I said, I'm going to let these guys handle this. I don't really love the construction aspect of it. Believe it or not, there are some guys that just love it. They can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
God bless them. That's not me. So I kind of went back into investing. But to your original question, I owned a brokerage for a little while, had about 100 agents. So it's kind of always been on more on the investment and maybe entrepreneur side of it. But versus the traditional agent, I guess, if you will.
So is that how, if someone asks, just out of curiosity, and say you meet someone new and they say, hey, what do you do for work? Like, hey, what's your response to that?
Well, depends on my audience, I guess. No, but I would just always say, like, hey, I've always been an investor in the house game. Fix and flips, rentals. Doing different things, done some development around that. So I've always just said I'm a residential real estate investor. Is probably the dumbed down version of it.
Awesome.
But I'll tailor make it a little bit depending on my audience and the environment for sure.
So I'm assuming you're spending most of your time like within Stay Frank, but are there other things that you're doing that you use your hands on in the real estate world, like whether education and sort of coaching other investors, or is it just kind of strictly staying in that lane right now, looking for opportunities? And I'm always curious as to kind of what you and other people are sort of, I guess, focused on.
Yeah, yeah. No, not doing any coaching or anything like that at the moment. Done some of that in the past. It's interesting. When we all kind of talk about COVID and when it started and pre and post and during and all this stuff, but for me, I made a decision in late 2018 that I was going to get out of development. And at the time, I probably had about 20 to 25 homes under construction. My debt service on my development loans was almost $200,000 a month. That's an expense, but a balance sheet, expense at the time until the deal closes. But then my overhead of salaries and office was about $170,000, and so I don't know, that's close to 400 grand. And I just said, I'm just really not this cool, and my shoulders hurt and it's heavy. And so I started winding down our company. And when COVID hit, I was like, man, I'm a genius. Like my timing couldn't have been better, And then we all know how that went. The opposite happened, right? And my buddies were like, dude, you missed it. Like, we're making so much money right now. I was like, listen, awesome. I'm so happy for you. Like, do you see how happy I am right now? And I when COVID hit, I was winding down some things, and I just kind of said, you know what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? And I just wanted to the sale-leaseback was always been something that was near and dear to me from a transaction. I want to get more on the investment side of things. And so I started testing some things and just been working on building this. I had a business partner, bought him out at the end of last year. So I've been doing a lot of different things, as most entrepreneurs do, trying to figure out exactly what the market changes, what direction to go. So right now, besides being a dad and trying to be the best husband I can be and work out every once in a while and watch the Suns not go to the finals, I'm just grinding, building the business right now, but having a lot of fun, a little humility, doing some things I didn't know if I was going to be doing ever again in my career, but that's okay. I'm learning and growing. So yeah, just focus on building the business right now.
It's awesome. If you had to, just out of curiosity, I know I'm not going to hold you to anything here, but if you had a crystal ball, like what's your take on what do you see happening over the next, call it 12, 18 months in the market? Whether it's something that you're more of like protecting against, or just sort of like, hey, it'd be nice if this happened. Like if you had a crystal ball, like what do you see as maybe some of the opportunities and things that we could see coming up?
Yeah, I love that question. I love asking that question, by the way, a lot more than I like answering that question. So I'm going to probably, after I'll answer, I'd love to hear anything you want
Fair.
to share about that too. But It's funny. I think the older we get and the longer we've been around, I remember early on in my career hearing from mentors that had been around for a while. It's like, they're like things always they always cycle, and the cycles they're always a little bit different. Things aren't always good and things aren't always bad, and they've been really good. I think they're really pre the few years leading up to COVID for the
Yeah.
most part. And then that happened. And look, I'm not a pessimist. I'm an opportunist, and I believe I'm a realist as well. I think generally speaking, house prices, certainly from a historical trend line, they're probably they're a little high right now. In my opinion, and I think if in 12 months, 18 months, if we look back and go, oh, houses dropped 10, 15%. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, does that mean that people shouldn't buy houses today? No, that doesn't mean people shouldn't buy houses today. But we always want to predict, like, are houses going up, or are they going down? Well, that's interesting to talk about, but all boils down to is, like, what do we take action on? And if I'm going to buy a house for my family to live in for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years or longer, like, who kind of really cares? It's just head games, right? So I think when you talk about the next 12 months, 18 months, I think you're going to have some people that are going to need to sell. I think there's going to be some opportunities. I think people we lived off the flow, we lived off the come. We felt good that our Robinhood accounts were going up, and we felt good because our home values were going up, and on paper we felt really good. Well, when things change and the money starts to get a little tighter, and a Robinhood account goes down, and maybe our house is worth a little bit less than we thought, and some things are changing, all of a sudden people start to make some different decisions. So I believe there's going to be opportunities to buy. There's like in 2005 and six, I was buying foreclosures, right? So that was an incredible market, but there's always opportunities in any market. So I think we should be. I think things tend to take longer than we think they're gonna.
Yeah.
I'd recommend, like, don't try and be a hero right now. Like, get lean, be smart, be very calculated in what you're doing. It might take it might take longer than we think for things to shake out here, but it's like, usually I feel like I've said, hey, I feel pretty clear about the next couple years. I feel that's different this time. I feel like, hey, in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, I feel great. I love Phoenix. I love this market. Real fundamentals here. Awesome stuff happening. But I think the next 2 years it's gonna be a little bumpy at times, and we're gonna see pockets of smooth sailing, and kind of like we've seen a little bit of a boost here recently. But I also think that I'm starting to see some softening in some areas too, which just creates some opportunities. So I don't know if that was a bad or a good non-answer or not, but I'm I'm less clear about the near term, and becoming more clear about the long term. Maybe that's just because I'm getting older, but that seems to be the sentiment. Like, if you can hold out and you can manage through, like, ideally it's going to be, or it's going to be ultimately fine, but it might be a little bit bumpy the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I think you're right on it. I think we're taking a longer view on things, which and I agree. I don't know, man. Maybe it's age. I'm kind of in the same boat where that longer view I feel really good about, and going, yeah, I can wait 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, or I feel this way about the market 3 to 5 years from now. Shorter term, definitely a lot more questionable, no doubt about it. And I think no matter what, though, whether you were dead on what you were saying, or you were completely wrong. But by the way, I won't play this back, so I promise not to hold you to it. I think the overwhelming theme, though, that I hear is there's going to be opportunity regardless, right? There always is in real estate. Like you said,
Yeah.
if you're buying a foreclosure in 2005, like, nobody would, if you told somebody that at the beginning of 2005, nobody would even believe you that you could do
Right.
that. So, like, there's always opportunity to market. And I think because it is such a unique time where demand has been low, but also supply has been really low, like those don't usually happen at the same time. Um, and then we've got this thing like these super low interest rates that people are locked into and higher interest rates now if you want to go buy. I just think that creates more opportunity for creative solutions for using that. I referred to Carlton Sheets earlier, using those Carlton Sheets creative type of solutions to help people move. Because to your point, people got to buy and sell, like you said. Doesn't mean just because, even if you think for sure the market's going down, you still might have to buy a home, or you still might have to.
Yeah.
So people have job changes, or life changes. People got to upsize, people downsize, the divorce happens, job transfers, all that stuff. Like there's always going to be a certain amount of real estate sold. And so I think it's about finding the opportunity sort of that exists within those constraints of the market. And if you do that, if you take that approach that you mentioned at the beginning of this recording, just try to do a deal, like literally find a way to make something happen, you're going to be okay. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter what the market's doing.
Yeah. I think to your point too, like we always want to talk about like kind of more from a macroeconomics or macro market standpoint. It's like, I don't know how many people are really operate in the macro from the standpoint of deploying, having a $1 billion fund, or they're a public home builder. But like, I mean, we're trying to do deals, right? And every deal has its own economy, right? The seller's got their own fiscal situation and a buyer, and so it's I think it can be very dangerous, trying to either advise or give advice on macro, because it's just it's more every deal is specific, right? So I'll talk to some of my friends who are very successful agents. Are like, oh, Derek, people aren't going to sell because their interest rate's 3%. Oh, really? Well, guess what? When that guy gets divorced, dating the new girl, she might not want to live in the house anymore, and she doesn't give a crap what that interest rate is. She's going to want to own a house with him. And again, just getting very real, right? I mean, bad things happen, unfortunately. Good things happen, right? So, I mean, and I think we all tend to warm up to things. So, we get the shock, and oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like my first house I bought, 2002, 8.5% interest rate. And I was pumped and stoked. You know why? Because it's the only one I could get. So it's like, why does anyone do anything? Because they have to, or they want to. That's it, right? So, I think that is ultimately what's going to happen, is that people are going to go, hey, I'm going to go buy a new house because whatever reasons driving that, and they're going to warm up to that 7% rate or 6.5% rate or whatever it is, right? And maybe the seller is going to warm up to like, yeah, maybe my house is worth a little bit less, but goodness gracious, I bought it for 500 grand and I'm selling for 800 grand. This is still a pretty good win here. So I just think we're all human creatures and we're emotional, and so in time we warm up to those things. So that whole macro, people aren't going to sell because of interest rates. Like, yeah, life happens. You said it, and we can't forget that. We can't forget that. So it's going to create transactions. And the supply and demand thing too. It's like, yeah, that's great, but at the end of the day, there might not be a whole lot of supply. But if the people who need the supply can't afford it because of rates, it's gonna affect pricing. Not everyone is gonna come from California with a pile of cash and buy every single house, even though it's happening a lot. Not everyone, not all of them. So anyway, those are my two things about that.
No, I think those are great points, man. As we start to wind down real quick, what's if anybody wants to learn whether an agent or somewhere in public, like where do people go to find out, kind of learn more about Stay Frank and what you guys are doing there?
Yeah, so it's just stayfrank.com. And they can find me on LinkedIn as well too, and message me. I love real estate. I love finance. I love markets. Happy to chat with anyone if they think there's some value add might be able to bring to them, or they're curious about something that we're doing that relates to their business. So I'm an open book. Don't ask me anything you don't want to know, because I will tell you. I will answer it. I recently realized that through an astrology reading, by the way, that my one of my soul's purpose is to trigger people, oddly enough. And I was told that, like, Derek, You are one of the reasons you're here in this cycle here is that there's people that need to hear things they don't want to hear, and your purpose is to help them hear that. So I did tell my wife that. I'm
How'd
not
she
sure if she
take
thought it
that?
was as funny as I did. Yeah, she didn't actually. I don't think she heard it, so that's okay. That's good. But yeah, so stayfrank.com or on LinkedIn. And listen, I love working with agents, both to be a tool in their tool belt as they go on listing appointments. It's like, hey, what if you could sell this house and cash out some of your equity and not have to actually move today and move more on your terms. So we're working with agents in lots of different markets, not just Phoenix, for that. And then on the investment side too, if they have some investors looking to buy some rental properties and gain some yield, these sale leasebacks, we're getting ready to raise our first fund, a small little fund, but there's some pretty incredible returns when structured right. So yeah, happy to talk to anyone that thinks it might be a fit to chat.
Awesome, man. Well, Derek, I know you're busy, dude. I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk with me a little bit about the market and Stay Frank and just real estate in general, dude. I appreciate it and just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the time as well too. I love chatting about it. So it's always good to be here with you and share what's going on. So thank you.
Right on. All right. Well, listeners, we will that's it for today's show. We will see you next week and hope you enjoyed this. I know I did, and we'll drop all those links and whatnot in the show notes for you, and we'll see you next time.